Whew.
We did it!
Well done. And most importantly, you guys did it.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't win, but we didn't give up.
We made it to the finish line, and I feel great.
These two trained and practiced so hard so they could get across the finish line. They put into practice those things that I had told them about. Eventually.
Yeah, I put my mind to the race.
All that running.
They also looked after thinking about what they're going to put in their mouths and eat. They were good about managing their time and using their time appropriately so that they could get practicing and get out running. You know what? That was putting something into practice and making a plan and putting it into practice so that they could finish the race. That's commitment. Making a plan and putting it into practice.
Yeah, this race has literally been my life.
It's all I've been able to think about.
Life can be kind of like that. Life is one of those things that when you commit to something that really matters, you practice. Like the lady that you're going to hear about in the Bible story today. But right now it's time to celebrate!
Woo! The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Mark, chapter 12, verses 41 through 44.
When Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey the week before Passover, the crowds were excited.
Hosanna! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord! Hosanna! In the name of the Lord!
But the religious leaders were not.
He's turning the world upside down.
We'll have to fix that, won't we?
All week, the religious leaders sent men to try trapping Jesus with trick questions.
Teacher, is it right to pay taxes to Caesar?
Every time, Jesus gave a wise answer that caught them off guard.
Give back to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give back to God what belongs to God.
Jesus knew the religious leaders were so puffed up with pride, they didn't want people to listen to anyone else. Jesus even warned the crowds about them.
Watch out for the teachers of the law. They love to have the most important seats. They take over the houses of widows. They say long prayers to show off.
One afternoon, Jesus and his disciples visited the temple. They sat down to rest for a moment across from the box where people came to put money they offered to God. Perhaps the disciples, mostly poor fishermen themselves, were impressed by the rich men giving gifts.
Check out his robes.
I think they actually might be silk.
Jesus watched the rich men dropping handfuls of gold coins into the box. He knew that, like the religious leaders, they were proud to show how important they were.
Check this out, world. Money, money, money. Always sunny in a rich man's world.
Even though these wealthy men were giving impressive amounts of money, Jesus knew they had so much, this was easy for them. Simply a drop in the bucket.
Huh. She looks a little out of place.
The next person in line clearly wasn't wealthy. In fact, her patched robe showed she didn't have an extra cent to spare.
A widow, probably.
At that time, if a woman's husband died, she had no way to earn money and often had to live on next to nothing.
2 pennies?
How's that gonna help anyone?
Jesus was watching the woman too, but he saw something different, something more.
Come over here, all of you.
The disciples gathered around Jesus.
What I'm about to tell you is true. That poor widow has put more into the offering box than all the others.
Jesus' friends tried to sort it out.
Excuse me, pennies versus gold?
You couldn't buy an order of fish nuggets with that.
Jesus knew what his disciples were thinking.
The others all gave a lot because they are rich, but she gave even though she is poor. She put in everything she had. That was all she had to live on.
Oh.
When you put it like that.
The rich men, like the religious leaders, were concerned with what things looked like on the outside. They didn't want to give in a big way that might force them to change on the inside. But the poor woman, who had almost nothing, chose to give everything. And Jesus saw her heart and knew that her pennies were worth far more than the rich man's gold.
Can you believe we've come to the end of our month talking about commitment, making a plan and putting it into action? And we've talked about different practices that we need to do to make us more like Jesus. Practice hearing from God, practice praying to God, practice talking about God. And today in our story, we saw a woman who practiced living for God. She gave her 2 coins that seemed like not much to anybody else around except to Jesus. She gave all she had because she trusted that God would look after her tomorrow. Living for God requires practice. So this week, practice living for God and continue to practice living for God. And how you do that? You can ask yourself 2 questions. 1, what I am doing, does it honor God? For example, at school, maybe you're tempted to copy a friend's homework, or you're tempted to tell a lie. When you make the choice to do your own homework and make the choice to tell the truth, you are honoring God and living for God. Or another question you can ask yourself is, what I'm about to do show love to others? Am I going to say a kind word to a friend? Am I going to choose to invite a friend over that needs a good friend? Those 2 questions, do I honor God and am I showing love to others, are a great place to start in practicing to live for God. So keep practicing, keep training to be more like Jesus. It is totally worth it. And I'm hoping I will see some of you at summer camps. Take care.